We have an update on A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, the Game of Thrones spinoff from George R. R. Martin and HBO Max. And we're going to get into some of the images that are shown from the filming on location in Ireland around this series and some comments by George R. R. Martin himself. And we're going to do that right now. Welcome back to the Sundowners Club, everybody. We have been talking about George R. R. Martin and his feedback, his negative feedback around House of the Dragon Season 2 for a while now, and it seems like nothing can cheer George up. The fans could be cheered up by getting Winds of Winter released by George, but nonetheless, George has been down lately. It's been a rough year for him, but now his spirits seem to be picking up, and he commented on his NOTABLOG website about a visit to Northern Ireland for the filming of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And the first thing he says in his blog is that the title for the show may change to The Hedge Knight. Now, I personally think The Hedge Knight is a better title than A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but surely HBO and Warner Brothers are doing their due diligence around marketing to see what would be a good title to bring in new viewers that maybe had not watched Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon before. So once he gets through talking about the title issue or question, he talks about visiting the set. And one of the first things that he dropped was his inspiration for the tourneys, the jousting tourneys that take place in The Hedge Knight. And we're going to see that feature heavily in season 1 of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. As they're on location, we can see some of the shots that are filmed. But George mentions that he drew his inspiration from the 1952 movie Ivanhoe, where there was jousting scenes, and he certainly was inspired by that. What's interesting about Ivanhoe is that George thinks that they're the best jousting scenes ever put on film, and he used that as inspiration for A Night of the Seven Kingdoms and The Hedge Knight, and that's really, in essence, how Dunk and Egg were born. And so as we see the first shot that we're going to put up on the screen here, it is in Ireland, and we have Ashford Meadow. You see the multiple lanes for the jousters, that they can have multiple jousts going on and different events going on at the same time at the tourney. And George was really impressed with what Ira Parker and his team had built on the set there. And so as the majority of the story takes place out in the kingdom, away from the seats of power, you get a sense of really what the visual look of this series is going to be. You've got these stone pillars that would light fires at the top of them, and they look ancient, they look old, and certainly this first shot is a very good indicator that they're going to stay very faithful to the novellas, starting with The Hedge Knight. We get the first shots of Duncan the Tall himself, played by Peter Claffey, and you see a worn shield on his back, a worn and tattered cloak. Duncan the Tall is certainly a knight without means, and this image shows that, but it also shows you the colors, visuals that they're going for in this show, and really looks like they've done their job with the attention to detail. And it's really easy to do when you're in Ireland. The scenery and the setting really becomes a character in and of itself. Then we have the third shot, and what's cool about the third shot is we have some new players in the scene. For those that have read the books, we know that they're the Fossaway cousins, Sir Stephen and his squire Raymond. And we have Duncan the Tall looking on as Sir Stephen is taunting his squire. Certainly a good shot as you see the sigil on the front chest of Sir Stephen and Duncan the Tall in the background looking on. We then cut to a shot of the director of the series, Owen Harris, the showrunner, Ira Parker, Peter Claffey, and George R. R. Martin himself. And Peter Claffey is around 6'5". The character of Duncan the Tall in the books is around 7 feet tall. But I think they got the right actor. He certainly has the facial look of Duncan the Tall, and we'll see if he can pull off the role. But it's a really good shot. And then we have a character that is going to be very interesting in the first season, Tansel Too Tall. And she is a puppeteer. And the events of the book, where there's a puppet show that leads to a series of events that draws Duncan the Tall in, Tansel Too Tall will play a pivotal role in the sequence of events early on in the show. And so we have Tansen Crawford, who plays Tansel Too Tall, in the shot with George R. R. Martin. And George looking as healthy as ever. Aren't you excited and inspired, feeling like we're definitely going to get Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring when you see this photo of George? I don't know. It's got me nervous. Then we then cut to the last shot of the production stills, and it's T. Mickle, the assistant to George R. R. Martin. She's also on the writing team for House of the Dragon. Wrote one of the episodes in season 2 of House of the Dragon that I didn't particularly enjoy all that much, but I still think that House of the Dragon season 2 was decent. It was not as good as season 1, but the latter half of the season, of which one of the episodes T. Mickle wrote, were some of the weakest, I think, in season 2 of House of the Dragon. But nonetheless, T. Mickle is on location for the filming of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and you have these stone statues that look very similar to some of the things we saw in the Crypts of Winterfell. That's the first thing I thought when I saw this image, was the Crypts of Winterfell. But this just goes to show you that the level of detail that they're going to for this show is really second to none. And it makes sense because there's not going to be all the special effects for dragons. There are no dragons in these stories for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And so, they're going to put the money into making sure they're building the best sets. They go on location, pick the right spots to tell the story, and very excited based on the images that they show you here. One of the last things that George comments as we wrap up our video is that he really didn't get to spend time with any of the various Targaryen characters because they weren't filming when he was there. And there are several of them. So the characters in the books, if you haven't read the book, they run a range of personality traits. You've got the noble and the old warrior Targaryens. You've got the deceitful Joffrey-like Targaryen princes. And so depending upon what sorts of Targaryens you've been a fan of, there's going to be characters similar to those in this show. And so George didn't get to see them, but he did mention Lionel Baratheon, the Laughing Storm, played by Daniel Inks. For those who haven't seen Daniel Inks' work before, he plays the brother in The Gentleman on Netflix, a really, really strong season 1 of The Gentleman, and he did a great job in that, and I'm excited to see him playing the Laughing Storm in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. It's going to be interesting to see, does he steal the show in season 1, because he's a really, really strong actor. But anyway, as George wraps up, he talks about seeing a rough cut of the first episode, and I expect that we're going to see some sort of full trailer during the holidays for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And will we get a title change when we get that trailer? It remains to be seen, but George seems to really be excited for Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So we'll see what happens with this show. Let me know what you think. Are you excited for Night of the Seven Kingdoms? How did you feel about House of the Dragon Season 2? Are you looking forward to Season 3 and 4 of House of the Dragon? What do you think about George's displeasure with House of the Dragon and his anticipation for this series? And what do you think about the fact that Winds of Winter still is not out yet? Let me know what you think. While you're doing that, hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, and share this video out to your friends as we try to grow our channel. We appreciate your support, and TCB.